Joey Van Zummern here from Missouri Tigers on SI, here to talk Mizzou fall camp after hearing from Eli Drinkwitz and the rest of the team on Sunday, and then watching the first 2 days of practice. Now, no sweeping takeaways on player evaluations or on how these position competitions will end up playing out. Again, we're only 2 days in, no pads yet. Media is not allowed to view the team sessions of the practice where they're actually playing football instead of doing individual drills. But we can still get a few takeaways, especially from Eli Drinkwitz, and then just seeing how some of these depth charts and rotations are playing out in practice. So basically, just wanted to dump my notebook out here for y'all to see. First off, the main one that I'm sure most of you have seen by now is that there is no timetable for this quarterback competition. My main question as far as that was not necessarily if Drinkwitz wanted to have the quarterback competition decided by a certain date or if he had certain checkpoints he wanted to go through, but more so if it was going to go into that week 1 game, if he was okay with that, if he was okay with having it go like it did in 2023, splitting up those reps in that first game. I think the main concern there would be just the fact that once you decide the starter in there, they only have a week of preparation going into that Kansas game compared to if you named it at the start of fall camp right around mid-August, then they'd have 2.5 weeks of preparation ahead of that Kansas game. But he states his confidence in both those guys to be able to prepare adequately, no matter when they are actually named the starter.
When the quarterback's ready, he'll show himself to the team. I think we'll all know who it is, and when that is, we'll tell you. I don't plan on having waiting to announce because of a perceived advantage. Neither one of them have played that much football, so there's not going to be anybody to scout. I mean, it's not going to help you see it one way or the other. And if it's undecided, then we'll let them roll the games and play as long as we need to.
The other part of this quarterback competition was the news that broke Sunday night that Sam Horn was going to be signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers, being selected by the MLB organization in round 17 of the draft a few weeks ago. Now, this affects Mizzou baseball much more than it does Mizzou football, at least for this year. Mizzou baseball will be without a pitcher, of course, but for Mizzou football, Sam is still going to play football in the fall, like has been the plan all along for Sam. Why he was drafted so much later than he would have been, because of the fact that he told MLB teams that he was going to play football. But this might mean that he'll want to stick with the Dodgers after he goes there in the spring and not want to play football again next year for Mizzou. So that's definitely something to watch there, especially if he ends up winning the starting quarterback competition. But Bo Prabila also has next year of eligibility remaining as well. Next up, staying on the topic of the future of the quarterback position at Missouri, Matt Zollers comes as advertised. One of the biggest surprises of Eli Drinkwitz's press conference Sunday was saying that Matt Zollers is not completely out of the quarterback competition yet. Now, I'd be very surprised, but I do think that says something about Matt Zollers and the impression he's made on Coach Drinkwitz through the spring practices and throughout the summer as well, heading into the fall. Just watching him in practice over the last few days, I wouldn't compare him to Bo and Sam, and of course he's getting reps with different receivers, but he definitely has some zip on his passes, and he can definitely throw on the run are the two things I've noticed with him. So comes as advertised again, highly touted prospect for a reason, and there has not been a adjustment really, at least for college practices, for him to be able to show that off. So I would feel confident in the future of the quarterback position at Missouri. And then next up along the offensive line, a few key updates that we learned here. First up at left tackle, that Johnny Williams IV, the West Virginia transfer, is going to be taking the starting reps at left tackle to start things off. And that means Gavin Richardson, the former JUCO transfer, is going with the twos. But today he got a few opportunities with the ones from what I saw as well. Javen took the snaps with the ones in the spring, even when Johnny was here. But Johnny getting the most of those opportunities right now. And then next up, Jalen Early, the Florida State spring transfer, is going to start out at guard, not a starting position, but that's where he's going to play. That's where he's going to train. He played both tackle and guard at Florida State, so that was an important update. And then also Tristan Wilson is still the backup center as he was in the spring behind Dominic Jidus. Now Connor Tolson is back practicing, and Tristan Wilson is still in that backup spot. So big role there for the Lebanon, Missouri native, and says something about his future after Connor Tolson leaves this year. And then also at center, Dominic Jidus, the Michigan transfer. He's been named the starting right guard, but he has also been out there doing some snapping drills. So they're cross-training him at center basically, and they recognize the versatility he has there. I'd imagine, depending on the situation, even though for what I said about Tristan Wilson being the backup center, I would imagine, depending on the situation and how they feel about the rest of their depth, that if Connor Tolson were to go down with another injury, that they might just move Dominic Jidus over to center and then possibly have a guy like Jalen Early take that right guard spot. So there's that. And then next up, staying on the offensive side of the ball, and another true freshman sticking out, Donovan Olubade. We've talked about him before on the podcast here, and the talent he has, again, comes as advertised, just like Zollers, has already made some impressive plays. His route running really sticks out. So I think he's going to get opportunities early and often. And then moving things over to the defensive side of the ball, Marquise Graciel has apparently had a great offseason. Marquise, a guy that we've heard quite a bit about over the last 2 years of developing, and this year is his chance to finally come into form, possibly have that second defensive tackle starting job right alongside Chris McClellan. I talked to defensive line coach David Blackwell, really praised Marquise for getting his body in the right shape for the player they want him to be, a more every down pass rusher as well, to not just being a run stuffer. So they like the development that he's taken there. And then next up on offense, switching things back over again, Tavaris Jones, a running back, another guy that has kind of been in the shadows for a few years now with the program, but was a former four-star prospect. And I think he might have some opportunities as a receiver running back. He's a really shifty guy. Obviously, that running back room is kind of crowded at the top with both Ahmad Hardy, who I imagine is going to take the lion's share of the carries. I don't think it's going to be too much of a by committee like it was last year with Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll. Probably a little bit more closer to the 2023 split between Cody Schrader and Nate Peat, but probably a little bit more opportunities for Jamal Roberts and other guys. Marquise Davis, the true freshman, another guy that could earn some opportunities. All that to say, Tavares Jones was the second running back in the order for receiving drills for the running back, so I would definitely not shut him out of opportunities there. And then next up at punt returner, it's been Kevin Coleman, Daniel Blood, and Sean Terry as the first three up there. I'd imagine it's going to be Kevin Coleman. Missouri has shown before, too, they're not going to hesitate to put a starting wide receiver in that situation. They aren't necessarily worried about the possible risk of injury. Obviously, they're worried about injuries, but it's not too adverse of a situation, in their opinion, to put a starting wide receiver there. And then finally, on the topic of injury, Brett Norfleet is going to be A-OK. 100% ready is what Durham Cato, the Titans coach, told me on Sunday about Brett Norfleet's status after recovering from shoulder surgery. And every day we get a little bit more nuggets of information as I do new drills, and we have more time to scout and look at every position. So let me know what you're keeping your eye on during this fall camp down in the comments below. Appreciate you tuning in. I'll have notebooks and more coverage from fall camp every day over at Missouri Tigers on SI.